Hello everyone, my name is Daniel, I'm just a casual racer, and today I'm going to be doing a comparison between three mid-range direct drive wheelbases here. The one thing I want to say when we dive into this, right, is direct drive wheelbases, all these bases here, wipe the floor with anything gear or belt driven. It's another step up, so even at this kind of mid-range, more affordable price level, these all are great options for a wheelbase that really, if you're seeing something anywhere around the $400, $500 price point that isn't a direct drive wheelbase, it should absolutely not even be a consideration. Every single one of these bases are 5 times better, 2 times better than any other belt driven wheelbase. For example, the T300, it is double the experience if you go with the CSL DD. Let's jump in and talk about price, and then I will go straight into the force feedback comparison, because I'm sure that's one thing that most of you are most interested in.
So these prices have actually changed in the last few weeks, and so I just want to go over all that real quick here right at the beginning. And so Cammus is $4.99. That's what their price has been mostly. They sometimes do discount it by $50 when they're trying to move units, but currently it's $4.99. That's a 15 Newton meter wheelbase, and I'll go over the pros and cons of the wheelbase as this video continues, but clearly it is the best bang for buck in terms of pure Newton meters of force, although there's also an argument to be made, right, with the Turtle Beach, it is a bundle, so how do you assign the value? Fanatec now has a $449 option for their 8 Newton meter version, which is the one that comes with the boost pack, and it now comes with default with the QR2, which is great because it's actually a really good system. And the Ready to Race bundle that has been available in the past is no longer available with this. It's only the PlayStation version, which is very expensive. And so this is probably the best option to go with if you were looking for a wheelbase at this price range from Fanatec. So that's what we're taking a look at, the pros and cons as this video continues. And then finally, it's $4.99, but that's the bundle. The big deal about that is when I reviewed the wheelbase, it was $650, and now it's at $500 for the bundle. So we're actually talking, in terms of the overall value, perhaps the best deal. Not necessarily the best deal in overall force feedback, but if you split it in half, let's say we say $250 for the pedals and the button box, and the screen, perhaps, if you want to consider that, versus and then $250 assigned to the wheelbase itself, and you're getting a steering wheel as well, which none of the other bases have. You know, at $250, if you assign that value to the base, the force feedback base, actually per Newton meter, it's actually comparable to Cammus. So really here, if you're looking at it initially, Fanatec appears to be cheapest, but really per Newton meter, it's pretty close between both Cammus and Turtle Beach, and is an overall best deal in terms of what you're getting for the money. Turtle Beach has the best value in that respect.
Let's start with the Velocity One force feedback experience here. So there's a wiggling in the shaft that I experienced, and I'm going to try to disregard it for this comparison because I've heard from a lot of people now that that's not the way it's supposed to be, and so if you get a wheel light base like this, you should return it and get a new one. So I'm going to do this sort of comparison without that in mind the best I can. I will still say one of the biggest issues with the Velocity One is the experience across different titles. Wheelbases, especially back in the day, it used to be quite more common to have variants across titles. Some bases would be better than others not. And Fanatec was really known for delivering a consistent experience. The Velocity One definitely feels a little bit more like that old school inconsistency. And you get that, for example, Automobilista 2 is a decent experience. Assetto Corsa, Assetto Corsa Competizione, the Formula 1 games, some of the rally games, not a great experience, and then a really poor experience in Le Mans Ultimate, which you get a little bit. It's a newer wheelbase, newer game. Alright, I get it a little bit, but it's genuinely horrible. I couldn't get that thing dialed in at all. Disregarding the clanking I got with the loose shaft, it is a smooth, direct drive wheelbase. I think the motor, also based on the Automobilista 2 experience, I think there is the potential, if the software gets updated, to be quite good. And like I mentioned, even as it is, apart from Le Mans Ultimate, it wipes the floor with any direct drive or gear-driven base. Now I want to touch on, and just to make it clear, the Velocity One, in terms of the force feedback experience, is third of these three bases. The Fanatec base is the most detailed. I want to make this very clear. It is a very slight, only noticeable when you're going directly back and forth. I had this mounted on my primary rig where I do most of my work for programming and things like that, and I had my Cammus on my secondary rig where I do most of my product reviews. And only by going back and forth did I really notice a difference. Now, I want to make the caveat that that was not the case until the recent 1.7.1 Cammus firmware update that was just pushed out. It's a beta firmware, but I highly recommend using it if you have the Cammus. It's supposed to reduce coil noise and coil whine. It also is supposed to add some other improvements to the base. And to me, I think what it did is it allowed the sliders to... I was able to adjust the sliders more than in the past and actually draw out detail. Some of the sliders under the advanced tab I was not able to draw detail. Like when I jumped in this time, I was like, whoa, I'm actually like move this slider up and now I'm feeling detail. And it might be a bit because of that reduced coil whine. Now you can push those sliders farther and you can draw that detail out without just the base getting weird and not good at all. You know, so I think, and right, any time you push out an improvement, it means there might be more improvement to be had. And so I believe there's more potential with this base, and it is a very small difference. And the one thing about Cammus, it is 15 Newton meters of strength, whereas, yes, with 8 Newton meters, that is a sweet spot for me. I don't really need more than that. But it is nice to have the overhead. I know I'm never going to clip. I also, you know, there are people who need 15 Newton meters of strength. So I would say right now, this is second place, but it's pretty close, and if you really need the strength, then this is probably the better option. But ultimately, just because it is a more detailed experience, you just get more nuance. It always works in every game, pretty much. There's so many good settings online. Fanatec takes the force feedback, albeit by a close margin over the Cammus Wheelbase. Now let's talk about the quality of these bases. So on the Velocity 1, it's a plastic shell housing. It is a toy-like characteristic. And unfortunately, it's just not there. I mean, we have the loose shaft here. I'm just not very confident in this base. And it's third place, by far, not even close. It's a little closer between these two bases. I do give second to Fanatec. There are a few issues for this. One is the ports in the back can pull out. Let's say you're using it in the living room and your kid or dog runs by and catches the cable. They can pull out, and then you have a severe warranty issue that you might, or if you're out of warranty, you might not be able to get it fixed and have to get a new base. So that is a quality concern. It's also plastic on the back, plastic on the front. I will say the QR2 helps tremendously to bring this more towards a professional grade product, but it's kind of a mix. It's like this high quality consumer kind of product, but it's not a professional grade product. Whereas with the Cammus, this thing is built like a brick. The quick release is excellent. Everything about it is just really solid. There's two issues. One, the USB cable that came with it was a little bit loose, not a very high quality cable. Swapped that out for a cheap $2-3 one that I had laying around that was a good quality. Never had an issue after that. The other thing is the buttons on the front are not exceptional. They're fine, but they're not, you know, the toggle switches, they're pretty good actually, but then the rotaries, not very good. So, but they're additional, right? You know, $450, kind of include them, and if I compare to the quality over here, rotaries are about the same, buttons on here are actually probably worse, and these don't even work right. So if you wanted to compare that, and Fanatec doesn't even have buttons on the base or included. So that's something to kind of consider. Overall, I'm going to give the slight edge in terms of quality of construction to the Cammus base. In terms of now customer support, which is kind of following on from that, and you know, durability and reliability, the Velocity 1 I've already got issues with. Which makes me, you know, kind of believe more of the stories that Turtle Beach has pretty low-quality products that don't hold up great. Seems to be pretty true. But you do get the added benefit of it being a large company. And it can have some downsides, right? They're going to want receipts. They're going to want proof of purchases. But, you know, you can get this at Best Buy here in the United States. You could go back to the store and return it or exchange it if you're having an issue. You can, you know, buy an extended warranty for this base relatively easily. There's things like that that you just don't get necessarily with the other bases. So I'm actually give this second place in terms of customer support. For the Fanatec, I actually have to give it dead last. I don't want to go in too long on this, but I believe Fanatec is actually hostile towards customers. There's a couple reasons for this, and the sim racing community. One, the quality of their products is often not great. Not so much with their wheelbases, but their peripherals can be quite poor. And warranty treatment, they've been known for being horrible about sticking with their warranties and fulfilling that. They've been extremely slow. They often aren't prepared properly. The customer support people are some of the rudest and horrible people I've ever interacted in any customer service setting. And the stories are so many to count. Additionally, to further, this isn't like some new development. They've always had these issues. It's just become more compounded, and it's coming more forward as the company has grown recently. For example, they've always been hostile towards sim racers by locking you into their ecosystem. They've made it very difficult to use third-party wheels, third-party peripherals with their base because they don't want you to actually be able to fully enjoy sim racing and other products. They want to lock you into what they have. The Fanatec, when you buy a Fanatec product, you are buying from a company that will be hostile towards you. And it's a severe issue, and customer support is really poor. The community is quite good in terms of there's a lot of people that own these and you can get advice and help. Finally, the actual winner here is going to be Cammus, surprisingly. They are mostly focused on the Asian market, so they have great customer support over there. They're going to speak your language natively, especially if you live in China. Outside of that, they probably sell as many bases in the rest of the world as they do in China, but they still, if you join their Discord, it's probably the best way to get a hold of them. Reach out to them, get some help that way. They generally will try to help you, and I think they do quite well by people. Obviously, it feels a little bit more like a mom and pop type of company, but in a kind of, I think, a good way. So, and if they come across a little short or whatever with you, it's more often a translation issue or misunderstanding in that respect. So just stick with it. Sometimes it takes a little bit to get a response, but generally they respond much faster than Fanatec ever would. And they tend to treat you right. So Cammus, I've had no issues with their customer support and warranty support for their products. So that is something, that's why they're going to get the win for this as well. Finally, I want to touch on the ecosystem. I already mentioned a little bit with Fanatec, so I'll start there. They lock you out, or lock you in. So you can only use Fanatec wheels unless you buy a podium hub, or I've come with a few ways. You can get some emulators from sim racing machines. You can use a podium hub and stick another quick release on the end of it. It's a mess, and it's terrible. They also, they do have a wide range of products within their own ecosystem, but they haven't released anything for quite a while, and some of their products are actually, not that high of quality now compared to similar price points. SimMagic and Moza are really starting to put Fanatec's tail to the fire. SimMagic now has a wheel that will work with anybody via USB for under $300, and it's a much higher quality wheel rim. And so for me, it starts to really, yes, there's a big ecosystem for Fanatec, but it's the only ecosystem you're stuck in. And there's actually a lot more options now. And it used to be there was a lot more options, but they're all extremely expensive, over $1,000 or around $1,000 for these wheels. That is changing. There are now affordable options that are compatible with any base via USB connection. And so Fanatec, you gotta open up the ecosystem, buddy. Stop being so hostile. I will say for now, this still gets a second place finish in this category because the Velocity 1 currently, although this does not lock you out, there is no wheel side quick release. And unfortunately, their own ecosystem only has a D-shaped, not very high quality wheel. So that's a bit of an issue. If a third party were to produce a wheel side quick release, or hopefully Velocity 1 does, that would change things quite a bit and bring them around a conversation with Fanatec. But unfortunately, at this point, we're not even sure, based on the reception of this base, which hasn't been that great, we're not even sure how long this will get supported, and who knows if Turtle Beach will commit to sim racing for the long term. So that's still a lot up in the air there, and I don't feel optimistic about it. So unfortunately for ecosystem, I have to go third for Turtle Beach, second for Fanatec, and finally, a winner in this category is actually going to be the Cammus, and that is because although the actual products is mostly just a button plate and some wheel rims, they have a really great quick release. It's $40, super affordable. And Like even here, I switched this out for a Kyostar D1 type quick release. You can unscrew it, you can run the electronics through it, and then, because I already had a lot of Kyostar wheel quick releases for my wheels, because I had a convoluted system to try to save money on quick releases for Fanatec, and so I already had half a dozen of them around. So I used one of the base side connectors, and boom, it worked so perfectly. That is so rare. To be able to swap that out and have everything work and then not care, like, that is amazing. Cammus doesn't prevent you from using it. It doesn't stop the force feedback, so you can use whatever you want. And actually, when I did the review of this base, the SimMagic hadn't released their Neo Formula 1 wheel, which is my go-to recommendation if you were going to get this. Get a SimMagic Neo wheel. It's going to be an amazing, high-quality Formula 1 style wheel. Then just get a couple of quick releases and order a round rim from them, because it's a high-quality round rim. Now you have a round rim, you have buttons on here, so you don't have to worry about not having buttons on the round rim. You have a high-quality Formula 1 rim, and then you can buy whatever other rim you want. The button plate that they make kind of two slightly different versions. It's not very good, unfortunately. It's in some ways better than the one that comes with the Velocity 1, but in some ways worse, although you can put whatever rim you want on it, so obviously if you put a real steering wheel, it's going to be a better experience, more sturdy. So I guess I'll give the edge to the Cammus ecosystem. But they definitely do need to expand in that area. But they've been tremendously assisted by SimMagic and Moza. Moza has the KS Formula wheel, which is also sub 300. They have the new truck wheel, which works great via USB, and they have other options. And so Cammus is being aided, actually, because their ecosystem is open and because they have a great, affordable quick release. Their ecosystem is being aided by the expansion of these other third parties, which is very interesting. I would say that right now it's like a slight edge, right? Because, yeah, the Fanatec ecosystem is pretty broad, but I give it to Cammus just by a little bit. But if Cammus wanted to leave both these bases in the dust, they don't need to develop 20 wheel options within their own ecosystem. They need to develop two things. One, a Formula 1 wheel that is sub 500, hopefully sub 400 if you really want to just blow up the market, with a screen, high-quality switches, that type of thing. That would be incredible, game-changing. And obviously I recommend making it so it can work with other bases, whether with an additional USB or whatever, make a little extra money or give the discount to Cammus in a bundle for Cammus users or whatever. There's ways to incentivize Cammus owners, give them a little discount or whatever. But that product would be massive in their ecosystem. And the second thing would be to have something similar to what they did with the C12, which I've heard has got really good switches and rotaries and all that. If they did something like that that was compatible with the 15 Newton meter and their 8 Newton meter wheelbase that was a removable wheel, I think that would be great. Or even just a V2 version of their button plate using some of those switches and things. That would be fantastic. And that would change this whole dynamic. Cammus would run away with the ecosystem side of stuff. For now, I kind of just slightly give them the edge over Fanatec, but it's partly because I really favor having an open ecosystem. Because, for example, if you buy that SimMagic Neo Formula 1 wheel for $290, you can take that with you forever. You can use it on any base that's open. And so let's say you decide later on you want to go SimiCube or Acetec or something like that, which I've heard, I've used a SimiCube before at a friend's, and it's it's probably the best force feedback experience that I've personally had. So, but they're expensive. But maybe someday you decide, when I'm ready for a top-end sim racing wheelbase, I'm going to go SimiCube all the way. You can take that SimMagic Neo wheel with you. You can't do that with the Fanatec wheels. You have to get adapters and all this mess, and it's just a nightmare. So that factor was what actually gave the edge to Cammus in this category. So to summarize, it's kind of interesting. Obviously, it's pretty clear the Velocity 1 of these three bases is third. And it just finishes there. In second, I have to give it to Fanatec, and Cammus takes the win here. Primarily, the biggest factor is probably customer support right now. Yes, the biggest thing for Fanatec is probably, yes, it is a slightly better force feedback experience right now. Although Cammus is closing. They're closing in. But when your company is hostile towards the sim racing community and hostile towards the very people that buy their own product, I cannot give them the win. I just can't. And I wrestled with this like all week, and it was like until I came to that realization that they're kind of like a hostile company. And how can, like, when I compare something that is close, like, right, there are a lot of positives to the Cammus base. It's stronger, it's open ecosystem, you got some buttons on the front, you know, it's $450, the thing's built like a tank, you know, it's a little bit more of a mom and pop atmosphere on the support side. Like, there's quite a few things, and then it's like sitting here at the end of the day, and it's like, final weighing is a little bit better force feedback, but much, like, horrible customer support and a hostile company. Winner. So Fanatec just dropped the ball, really, is what's happened here. I'm optimistic. Cammus, please keep supporting this base. I know you're doing the C5 and the C12 and all that, but please keep supporting. This thing's got massive potential if you continue to update the firmware, continue to make big strides, expand the ecosystem you have. Guys, that would be huge. Excited to see Fanatec just got to have wholesale leadership changes, got to have wholesale, fire the entire customer support team. Fire them all. It is the worst customer support team I've ever dealt with. Hire an entire new... I mean, honestly, you could probably fire 90% of the company. I don't remember the exact ownership who owns Fanatec, but I can't believe they're happy. Velocity 1, Turtle Beach. I recommend you guys don't give up on your product, but get rid of this plastic case. Release a V2 here next year. Strip it down. Work on the software side. Please get things up. I'm sure you can do better than even the experiences now in Automobilista 2. And then you're going to have to, obviously, I would have an option that's a lot cheaper. Do much more of a professional style steering wheel. Just offer the direct drive base by itself. And then if you want to do a new button box, create a different one. Have it attach, but have it be higher quality, right? It's not that expensive to upgrade these buttons and things. Like, you're going to spend maybe $1.50 more per each one to get really high quality switches in there. Like, do that, guys. Like, come on. And then, like, if you really want a screen, you can have that be an add-on that either is included in the bundle or whatever. But if you really want to appeal to sim racers, you can't come in presenting a toy and then selling it for $650 because you've priced out the entry-level market, but then you've presented a toy-like product. So I dare you to, because I doubt you're going to, but I dare you to send me your V2 version of this with updates and things like that in the future, and I'll give it an honest crack again. I would love for this next one to just knock my socks off and you guys create a market-changing product. There's room here for improvement. I'd love to do another comparison in the future. I'd love to compare some Moza and Simagic bases, kind of this mid-range as well. That would be awesome, so hopefully I can get my hands on one of those. They send them over to me or whatever for review. But if not, I'll just continue to compare what I do have here. I have a lot of stuff that I want to get through and compare. I'm going to do a Fanatec CSL DD review, kind of a long-term review since I've had this wheel now for several years and I use it really regularly. It's still my daily driver, although the Cammus is really closing in. So yeah, I hope this review was helpful. Just once again, Cammus is the winner in this comparison. The Fanatec finishes second, and then quite a ways off, unfortunately, for Turtle Beach is the Velocity 1. So hopefully this was helpful. Feel free to comment down below. I know I touched on a lot of different things. Feel free to give me your experiences if you have any one of these bases. Do you like these bases? Did you get one and did you get rid of it? You know, I know some people got the Cammus wheelbase and they didn't enjoy it so much. Did you get the Turtle Beach one yet? Are you interested? Do you like the design? I didn't really go into the design much. Because it's kind of such a personal preference thing. But for me personally, I love the small form factor of Fanatec. That's just kind of a personal preference. Mounts really easy, but you know, perhaps there's another reason why, you know, I know some people really attracted to the Velocity 1 style. I found it personally quite tacky, but, you know, anything like that, feel free to comment down below. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful, but most of all, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your week.